Okay.
Taigi, laba diena, ačiū, kad atėjote. Noriu Jums pristatyti lektorių, žurnalistą, beje, dirbantį mūsų universitete. Tai yra Andrei Buzarovas iš Ukrainos. Tai yra žmogus, kuris, kaip pasakyti, neša žinią apie Ukrainą ne tik tai mūsų Lietuvoje, bet ir Europoje. Taigi šiandienos paskaitos tema bus susijusi su tarptautinė žurnalistika ir geopolitinė apskritai situacija, kokia yra šiandieną pasaulyje.
Thank you.
Viskas
gerai. Thank you, Rosita, for a presentation. I didn't understand anything, but I feel that you told the truth about
I feel about you
Yeah. Researcher. Yeah, I'm a researcher. But I came from Kiev. I do not live in Klaipeda, but I just came from Kiev 3 days ago. And 30 minutes ago, I have a meeting with the rector. And tomorrow I will make the interview with the rector of Klaipeda University, with Arturas. And in 2 hours I will have an interview with Latakas, with director of Seaport of Klaipeda. And tomorrow I will have an interview also with Mayor, with Vaičiulė of your city. So I have a lot of interviews. I working now as a person who take the interview, but usually I give the interview. This is, I think, the modern tendency in the world. So it's complicated to say what kind of journalism are you interested or are you fond of. I think we have to be multifunctional. You have to be analytics, international observers, you have to be manager, you have to be flexible in the modern world. I think I do not believe in the classical type of journalism because it's very, very changed during last 10 years, maybe, or 20 years. Because when I started to work as a journalist was 15 years ago. Mostly I was a journalist who wrote articles, but then I became a media person. I became to make the videos. Even now I make on my own camera using the modern wireless microphones, the new video. 15 years ago it wasn't possible to imagine that I can do these things, use microphone without cable and to make real quality. But this is a reality of the modern world. And I want to thank you, Rosita, for invite me to have a discussion with you. Not just a lecture, but just discussion about the trends of the current international, I would say, journalism. Because in Ukraine we feel very thoroughly, and we feel all the tendencies of the geopolitical situation and all modern technologies, all modern tendencies used in Ukraine. But unfortunately, because of the war, however, all leading journalists came to Ukraine, and I have an opportunity to communicate with all the most famous journalists from Great Britain. And in 3 days I will go to London, to Cambridge, and to Oxford. I have interviews with the journalists from Guardian, from The Economist. It's very interesting to interview journalists because it's a very good experience when you speak with the famous journalists from the leading newspapers, from the leading websites or TV channels. So I want to thank you all that you come. I'm not a classical journalist. I'm more expert, I think, now on international relations. And my background, my education, my scientific work and scientific experience mostly concentrated on international relations. But I started as a journalist 15 years ago, as a journalist, and I will tell about this later. Now, the main topic of my today's lecture is to explain you what is going on now in the journalism, including the current tendencies, including my experience, and including practical recommendations which I will give you secretly in an hour. So I will tell you some recommendations which will be useful for you in your activity. Nevertheless, where will you work? In international relations, or in the city council, or in newspaper, or in a private company. I think the principles of communication, of talk, they are the same everywhere. The most important thing is to speak. It's very difficult to start talking, to start speaking with the people. This is the unique, natural thing, and I think that mostly people, they have natural gift to start talking, to talk, to speak, to not frighten the audience. I think this is to some extent natural gift, and it's complicated to find this skill if you don't have such kind of background. I mean, it's easy to write something than to tell and then to ask people. So that's why I will give you some recommendations which will improve your skill. And my lecture will consist 3 parts. First part, generally we will speak about the tendencies, about the journalism. Second, about my personal experience. And third part, recommendations, which would be very, very important. So we'll start from the first part, the modern journalism. I have already told you that the modern journalism and the modern tendencies, it's a very complicated thing. I cannot describe now you what is the modern journalism, what is consists of. I think it's complicated to say because in every country, in every part of the world, you have different vision of journalism. I was in China, I was in the United States, I was in Great Britain, I was in Russia, I was in European Union, I am now in European Union, and I see the vision of journalism is quite different. That's why I think that we should be much more flexible to the international reality, I would say. Are you all interested in international relations? I mean, who are from you interested in international relations, in international events? Who analyze the international tendencies? Are you all interested or no? It's my question. Just shake your head, because it's complicated not to interested the international event. What is going on in Ukraine? What is going on in Israel? I think you should be. As a journalist, you have to have wide vision of all events, because you cannot analyze what is happening in your country if you don't know the foreign trends, I would say. And what languages, foreign languages, do you study? What foreign languages do you know? English? What else? German? Russian, I understand. Okay, French, Italian, Spanish, Arabic? No, okay. I will speak about foreign languages. I think it's very important to know because I use 10 languages. I use Arabic language, I know Arabic language, I use Russian, Ukrainian, English language, German, French. I use when I take the interview and when I give the interview. The knowing of the languages, this is advantage. And it's not important whether you know 10 languages or 2 languages, but you should be in the modern world much more flexible in this thing. Not to use just Google Translate when you communicate with the people directly. If you talk with the people, you should know basis level of language. And I encourage you to study foreign languages because they will be very, very important in the future. And I think in the global world, the knowing of the languages is a very, very serious advantage. And I can share you some experience also. What kind of social networks do you use? Who have LinkedIn? LinkedIn, you know what is LinkedIn. Oh, it's good. And Instagram, Instagram, and YouTube, personal YouTube. Who has personal YouTube channel? You have? Facebook? Oh, so mostly Instagram and Facebook. Because in Ukraine we use mostly Facebook and Instagram. But as a professional, you and I, we should use not only Instagram and Facebook. I think we also should use LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter. It's not popular in Ukraine. I don't know whether it's popular in Lithuania, but mostly the Americans and Great Britain, they use Twitter. I don't know why, but they use much more. Maybe because it's a very short, specific news without using a huge quantity of the information. But I noticed that in post-Soviet countries we did not use Twitter a lot. So mostly we use Facebook and Instagram. However, I think you as a journalist should use, as a future journalist, as a public figure, you should use all social networks. Not maybe all, but we will speak about this. But try to at least to use them as a propaganda tool. So I will emphasize today mostly on the specific type of the journalism is a personal communication, personal talk, video mostly, because in the recent years I mostly take the interviews and give the interviews. I mostly use video content because it's much more popular now in the modern world rather than use newspapers. I think the same you have in Klaipėda in Lithuania. A few people use newspapers, mostly use the modern tools of communication. This is the future, I think, of journalism. But the most important thing, and who is he? Do you know? Do you know him? It's Larry King. Larry King, it's the most famous American journalist, I think, in the history of the 20th century. He took more than 50,000 interviews. He died already, but he was a unique man. I think the most famous American journalist. We can use different tools, we can use different methods, we can work in different media, but the principles always the same. This is the most important thing. If you know the principles of communication, of talk, I think you will be a very professional journalist. I recommend you to read his book. He has a very short book, I don't know, 100, maybe less than 100 pages. He wrote only one book, but he was very experienced journalist. How to talk to anyone, anytime, anywhere. And he explained his secrets of good communication, how to start talking with the movie stars, with the politicians, with the public figures, with the ordinary people in the streets. I mean, it's quite tough to start this too. And in his book, he gave some 5 recommendations. It's very general recommendations. First, stop using empty words. He means to be very accurately. For a professional, we don't have any time. In my experience, I know if I want to speak with somebody, I don't have a lot of time. I have 7 seconds to start speak. Just, hello, I am from Ukraine. So we don't have a lot of time. The same you don't have a lot of time. If you want to make the interview, to speak with somebody, to start the communication, we have several seconds. Because during the several seconds, our partner will understand whether he wants to speak with you or no. So that's why Larry King always told and explained and recommended to be very brief, not to use empty words, as he said. Be interested. This is second recommendation. It means that you should present yourself in the way that our partner will perceive you, which is complicated to do. It's only experience will show you how to do. to start talking with the people who you saw for the first time. It's complicated. And even for me, when somebody came to me, and, for example, your colleague yesterday wrote me on Facebook and asked me to give the interview to her. I said, okay, with pleasure, I will give the interview, but I also could refuse because I don't know who is she and why she wrote me to take the interview about Ukraine. That's a very delicate thing. But I like her because she was sincere. She wrote me, I want to ask you these questions, and that's all. That's why Larry King recommend you to be honest, not to be politician. Because the politicians, they always say one thing and then they say another thing. I think you should be very honest when you start to communicate with somebody, which is also not easy to do. Ask people about themselves. This is a very interesting thing because, for example, when I wanted to take the interview with Latakas, with director of Seaport, his press officer sent me the questions, asked me what kind of questions I want to ask. I said that you can say everyone what you want, but they said no, send questions. But I give you an opportunity to explain what is going on in Seaport, how you help Ukraine, concerning the trade, concerning the humanitarian supply, and so I always try to give the opportunity to my interviewer to talk and to say the things that he wants to say. It's not always correctly, because usually we have to have questions, what we want to ask. And after this lecture, you will ask me maybe some questions, and you should be prepared to ask the questions. And I always should be prepared to listen to the questions. But during the interview, give the opportunity to the people to explain, to say what they want to say. I mean, I don't know what you want to ask, and I don't know what, and you don't know how I will answer. But we should find a common ground. And the last recommendation from Larry King, learn to use open-ended questions. You should ask the question not in the way like, do you like or do you not like, Because the answer should be not yes or no. The answer of the people, of the interviewer, should be very long. So not to help him to answer very short. Yes, I will, or not I will. You should be more wide. So you should ask the questions when the man, your interviewer, should be ready to explain something in detail. Not just yes or no, yes I will go, not I will not go, I don't interested. It's not interview when the person will answer with such short questions. That's why be ready to encourage the people.
But is it good to use questions that the interviewer will say yes or no, but add the question why? Why is your opinion like that?
Yes, it's for precise the question. I mean, you can use this type. I mean, first when he answers, and then you can ask additional question. It's okay. It's a very wise suggestion. So about my second block concerns my personal experience, which was very tough. Second topic and second block of questions will concern my personal experience. So what I wanted to say you that I started in 2009 as a journalist, as a researcher. I was a researcher and a journalist who mostly in Ukraine, mostly we were interested in very specific type of the research and journalism. I was interested in the national minorities of Ukraine, mostly from Caucasus, from East, and I wrote 2 books about the history of minorities, national minorities in Ukraine. I published this book, 2 books actually, and it was my first experience about how to write. So I didn't like to take the interviews and I didn't like to give the interviews, I mean in video. I didn't like video at all. I used mostly personal communication. Sometimes I used dictaphone. I mostly wrote. So I wrote 2 huge books about the history of the national minorities, of the success of the different people, how they were integrated in the Ukrainian society. So it was some kind of mostly writing work. And I didn't like to give the interviews. I didn't want to be public. However, since my childhood, I like the international politics. Since the school, I was very deeply involved in the international relations, in the politics, in the everything. So I like the history, the international relations, but I didn't like the public. And after I wrote a lot of articles about national minorities, about the Eastern studies, I was invited to the National Union of Ukraine in 2014, not 13, sorry. 13, it was 11 years ago. And I became officially Ukrainian journalist. And then I was invited to the International Federation of the Journalists. It was actually in the one period. Then the war came in 2014, the first war, not the full-scale invasion, how we say. The first war changed a lot. It changed a lot, and I think in your life and in my life and in life of every person, there are some events who changed your vision, your activity, and your future vision of your career. It can be some kind of meeting with an outstanding personality. It can be war. It can be some political international event. So in my life, first change was during the 2014 when the war came to Ukraine, to Donbass, when the Crimea was annexed by Russians. And then I wanted to be more public. As a person who had a lot of knowledge about international relations, about the conflict, about other things, since 2014, I became a political commentator. I became the political commentator, so I commented the events for the Ukrainian audience, and I took the interview. I started to take the interviews a bit later, but first I became public as a person, in 2014, and since 2014 to 2018, I became very famous international observer, international journalist in different fields, mostly East, because I know Arabic language, and I travel a lot in China, and I showed the event in China, in Arabic countries, in the United States, and I show the international events, how I saw them, to Ukrainian audience. So, I visited a lot of international events in the world, and I wrote my 3rd book about the Middle East, about the democracy in the Middle East, and I published this book because parallelly I kept on making my scientific work also. So I will try to implement my knowledge, and I made my PhD about the democracy in the Middle East. It was my scientific topic. That's why I encourage you also to be active in the scientific work if you want to be, because it's another thing. And the second event, this is full-scale invasion of Russia and Ukraine. I was in Kyiv in that period. I'm originally from east of Ukraine, from Donbass, from Donetsk. So for me, it was second war, and unfortunately, for the most of the Europeans, the real war came after the second war, but for most Ukrainians, the war came in 2014. This is very important to understand, because we were already in the state of the war 8 years in Ukraine. But this full-scale invasion changed a lot. The people involved in United States and Great Britain, in the European Union, they became much more pro-Ukrainian, I think, much more interested in Ukraine. And this was a challenge for the journalists, for Ukrainian journalists and for the Western journalists, because Russia propaganda, Russian journalism is a very serious thing. They have very, very professional propaganda machine, which influence the people, even here in Lithuania, influence significantly in Europe, in Brussels, in the United States. So if they influence in London and Washington, they can influence Ukrainians and Lithuanians without any problem. So it's another type of journalism. Terrible, but it's some kind of tool which Russians use to influence the people. And they use different methods. We will speak about this later. However, the war changed a lot, and we, Ukrainian journalists, we became like defenders of Ukraine in the foreign relations. So we became the persons like I and my colleagues who know the foreign languages, who know some international relations background. We became a promoter of Ukrainian idea abroad. And I gave a lot of interviews to the different media in Germany, in the United States, in London, in Great Britain, in Austria, in Lithuania, in Switzerland, in different languages. For example, in German, I participated 6 months ago in the Zeppelin University. Zeppelin University is a university on the Boden Lake in German about the war and MEMS, Ukrainian crisis communication. So it was my presentation of how Ukrainians did not perceive the Russian propaganda, which is another topic. However, this is one of the panel discussions which I held in Germany. Recently I was participated in the conference in Romania, in Tușvaniuș. This is a Transylvania region in Romania, mostly full of Hungarians. So it was a unique experience when I have the audience, 100 people of Hungarians who criticized Ukraine significantly. I was the only one Ukrainian journalist, and there were 120 Hungarian journalists and experts who criticized Ukraine a lot about everything, about the provocation of the war, about that we don't want to find a solution with Russians, about a lot of things. And it was complicated to persuade them. But you have to be ready to any kind of circumstances, and you have to be ready as a journalist to speak about everything. And this is a very high level when you represent your country. You know, it's the most I think complicated task, and I think this is a high level, the most complicated level, and the high level which you can imagine when you represent your country abroad. So my third last block of questions, or last topic of questions, that is what to do. And when you don't know what to do. I think that the current situation has, in the world, including Lithuania, including European Union, made new standards, new requirements, I would say, for the journalists. And if you ask me, and if I ask you, how you see the professional journalist, I think we have different vision how this person should be, or whether he should write something or not write, whether he should speak or not speak, whether he should know languages or doesn't know languages. I mean, you have different vision. What is the future of journalism? What is the future of the international journalism? But I think that as I said, the principles of start talking, communication, they were the same, even during the ancient period. The same when we speak about the professional skills. I think if you want to be a real professional and to overcome all these scale steps from the beginning, from the bottom, when you write something, and then media, and then high-level communication, when you represent your state, or when you represent yourself in the foreign policy, when you speak with the very serious politicians, I think the requirements are all the same, and they are not so complicated as you think. So, what I want to recommend you, I think the first thing which is important and shows that you are a real professional. I think you don't know her. She's Nancy Pelosi. She's a former House of Congress of United States. I met with her 6 months ago in Munich, in Germany. She's the most influential woman in the United States. He met with John Kennedy 50 years ago during his inauguration. So Nancy Pelosi is a legend of American policy. And I was talking with her 20 minutes. She's 82 years old, but a very, very active woman. And she's very polite, very, very American. And she's older than Joe Biden even. You know also him, eh? I mean, it doesn't mean whom you speak. The American politicians or the rector of the university or Rosita, the principles all are the same. But the level of your communication of the people whom you meet shows the level of your contacts. And the level of your contacts shows the level of your professional activity. If you can reach serious people and communicate, it means that you are really, really good prepared journalist, and it means that you have some unique knowledge of something, because it's complicated to meet with the people when you don't have status, when you are not a president, when you are not a member of Sejm parliament, of Seimus, you are not a rich man, you are not a businessman, because mostly the people with a high-level status, they met the people from the high-level status, and you as a journalist should be ready how to communicate and to start talking with them. So you should be attractive in the comparison with the people of the high status. That's why you have to have some unique knowledge or unique skills, which helps you to communicate with all the people. And this try to develop your contacts. This is my recommendation. Try to develop your contacts with the people who are publicly famous. It will strengthen you as a media person. Secondly, which I want to recommend you, is to communicate more with your colleagues from different organizations. If you are not a member of the organization, you can be the member of some international unions, of journalists, of some federations. He is Daulius, yes? Rosita? Danius. He's a head of the of National Union of Journalists of Lithuania. And I think I'm the only one Ukrainian, if I'm not mistaken, who the member of Ukrainian and Lithuanian National Union of Journalists. Yeah. And so parallelly, I'm also the Lithuanian journalist, practically, yes. I also the member of the oldest club of journalists, which is situated in Vienna, in Austria, Concordia Club. This is the oldest journalist club in the Europe, and they invited me to be their member. So I can show you a lot of different documents and badges about my current status, but I recommend you to develop communications with your colleagues from different countries, or even here in Lithuania with different unions. It will strengthen your contacts. Also, as a person from Ukraine, I recommend you to interest in the current geopolitical situation, because it will not be good during next 10 years. I think we live in very, very, very bad times, and we should be prepared for the different challenges which can be from east. And that's why parallelly I am also a military journalist. So I went to frontline several times. I have a special accreditation from the armed forces of Ukraine, and I usually go to the front line. It's a Kherson region. Kherson. It's 2 kilometers from the Russian troops were staying, just 2 kilometers. So you should be ready also to communicate with the militaries, because I think in the next 10 years the situation will not be geopolitically will not be good. So you should understand what is military journalism. It's another topic and another sector, but you should be more active in the military, I think, sector. Also, I encourage you to write, not to forget to write something, because even now, when I'm mostly very active in the video content, I try to write for journalism, for different newspapers, or some scientific work. On the basis of my research here in Klaipeda University, I published my scientific work, which has become very popular among the scientists who are interested in the problem of adaptation of Ukrainians here and in Europe. And I published this article 6 months ago. And I recommend you to write something, because it will develop your skill, your language, your brain. So not to forget write. I think write is very, very important. Also, I recommend you to develop your personal contacts with academics. With academics like Rosita, like people who have theoretical very good background. This is a Cambridge University I met several months ago with I made an interview about with the head of Center of Geopolitics in the Cambridge University. I was in Oxford. This is Jonathan Fink. He's a most famous Anglo-speaking journalist in YouTube and podcaster. He created a huge YouTube channel supporting Ukraine. And I give him interview in English, and he gave me interview in Russian, because he speaks Russian, but he's a British who lives in Oxford. Also, I recommend you to visit international events. This is a very important thing. This is Davos. I was in Davos several times, and this is Switzerland, because it's a very good way to speak with the different people, to meet the Minister of Culture of Lithuania. Yeah, this is your Minister of Culture, or to speak with the former president of Latvia. And this is a very good skill how you can develop your contacts. This is a Munich conference, security conference in Germany. I also visited it, and I met a lot of people. So it's a good way how you can communicate to visit the different events, and try to be active in networking, because networking is very, very important feature of the modern journalism professional. So you shouldn't be only journalist, you should network, as I did for many years, but when the war came twice in Ukraine, I used my contacts with politicians, with foreign politicians, with foreign journalists, with different organizations to collect humanitarian aid for Ukraine, to supply the military deliveries for Ukraine. So all these contacts will be important for you. I hope not within the war, but for business, for communication. If you develop the relations with your colleagues, it will also have some kind of social, we call it social capital. Also, I recommend you to make the interviews and to speak with the famous journalists. It's very funny thing to take the interview with the journalist. But usually journalists don't give the interviews, but they take the interviews. But this is Luke Harding. This is the main, not main, he's the chief foreign correspondent of The Guardian, of the Britain newspaper and journal and website. I met him in London, and he speaks Russian, he speaks a lot of languages. He was living in Moscow for 10 years, and now he actually the most pro-Ukrainian journalist in Great Britain. And this is Catherine Ashton. She's CNN international, former international journalist. I also take the interview with her. So try to develop your communication with famous journalists because they have unique skill. Also, I recommend you to develop your social networks, social networking, and I use Facebook mostly for the texts, not for video and for photos, mostly for texts. When I want to explain my position, I use Facebook, but mostly for texts. When I want to show some photo, I use Instagram, but not texts. However, you can find a lot of photos on Facebook and text in Instagram, but I think Instagram, this is more for photos. For professional communication, I use LinkedIn. This is the best ideal network to communicate with different academics and professional people. And for video, I use YouTube because it's a huge advantage. It's free, and you can use it quite actively. Twitter, I didn't use a lot. Concerning the languages, you should, I think, develop your skills, because without language, without knowing foreign languages, I don't believe in any serious success. At least you should understand English, or to write, to read English texts, German maybe some East languages. I don't know. It depends on you, what languages you like. Because in European Union, you have a lot of languages, yeah? I mean, more than 20 different languages, official. You shouldn't know all of them, but I think the most important languages for communication, you need to know them. And use business cards. I use business cards a lot, and this is a huge advantage. Mostly people try to use electronic version, but I traveled a lot of international events. All the people from different newspapers, institutions use business cards. It's not an old-fashioned thing. I think it's a good thing. So all these recommendations will encourage you to be a real professional. And this is my practical experience. I can guarantee that you will be very good journalist or international observer or international relations specialist if you will follow all my recommendations, because I see that every person who is sitting here has their own vision how to be journalist, how to be media, PR specialist maybe in the company. It's another activity when you work with companies as a PR consultant. but the principles are always the same. The PR, the journalism, the propaganda, the principles are always the same. That's why it's not difficult to follow these principles, and I think with the experience you will be a very tough talker, and you will meet any kind of politician you want and speak, and politician, a public figure, movie star, it doesn't important. But if you know the principles and you have some confidence, you're ready to speak, to communicate, it will be easier for you to communicate. These all things which I wanted to tell you, actually, and I wanted you to ask me some questions. You can ask questions about Ukraine. Also, you have unique opportunity to ask something, because I just came, as I said, recently from Kyiv, and I know the situation. You can ask something about professional, my experience, or everything you want. Rosita, I give you word because you are a moderator, so you you can moderate. But I finished, and I'm ready to speak sincerely and frankly. Yeah, thank you, Rosita.
Maybe you can speak something in Arabic?
Do you speak Arabic language? I will send you my video interviews about. Yeah. I wanted to download them actually. I have a lot of them in international TV channels, but can you? Yes, I will find now in YouTube channel if we have access to YouTube.
But
Not here.
because we haven't value.
Ah, okay.
Not.
Okay, it's no problem. I will send you. You can find a lot of it.
I see that they can see your YouTube channel
Yeah, I will send.
because we haven't.
If they have access, I can access to the YouTube. You have there is an Arabic version of the. It's very funny. When I speak Arabic language, extraordinary, very extraordinary. It's very specific language, and you have to, like Chinese. I don't know Chinese language, but I studied Chinese language, and I studied a lot of languages, and now I can use 8-10 languages, but I need some skill, more experience to improve my Turkish and Greek language. I can speak a little bit Turkish and Greek, but I can use them as a journalist. But as a journalist, I can take the interview in Italian language, in Russian, Ukrainian, Spanish, German, Arabic, English, French, and others. Yeah, but it's not. It doesn't mean that I'm ideal in language. You don't know. You shouldn't know English. I mean, the foreign language ideally. It's impossible. You just have to have base. To start communication, to ask the questions. Even you make some mistakes, it's okay. The people always answer. Even when I speak English, I make some mistakes. It's not my native language. But the people answer. And you ask the Arabic language, the people answer. So it doesn't mean that you should speak fluently. It's impossible. I don't believe that you can speak fluently. I don't believe. Yeah, I have never met the people who speak fluently Russian language, if you are not native language. Even the people from post-Soviet countries who know Russian very good, they don't speak Russian fluent. I can distinguish, because my native language is Russian language. Yeah, I speak as a native, and I can distinguish whether the foreign person, from what country this person, from Baltic countries, or from Georgia, or from Armenia, from Azerbaijan, but because even they cannot speak. So that's why it's complicated to know foreign languages very, very good. Just for journalism, it's quite sufficient to have a base to start communicate and to ask questions. That's why I encourage you to study languages. Ask. Yeah.
I want to ask you, what do you think about your own president, Zelensky? Because he recently said that public speech about Hungary and Poland, that they are not buying
it's a political question. You should visit my second lecture. Today I will have a second lecture at 5 o'clock here in the other audience about the consequences of the war and about the war, about the geopolitical situation. And this is my professional background, because I work as a political advisor with a lot of politicians in Ukraine, and I know very good political situation and international relations situation. Unfortunately, also know very good. Concerning Zelensky, I will answer your question. I think Zelensky is a symbol of Ukraine. It's a symbol of resistance against Putin's regime. I think the absolute majority of the people in Ukraine support Zelensky. Absolute majority. He is very active, and Ukraine became very strong state, especially within the last 2 years. Very strong state, because we have independent, our own army, independent position, many things, and I think not only Russia frightened of such kind of strengthening Ukraine as a state, but some countries also maybe will not perceive this. They don't like when Ukraine became much more stronger as a state, much more independent. So, answering your question, we in Ukraine and Zelensky and the people, nation of Ukraine, we saw who really our allies. This is United States, Great Britain, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Denmark, Finland, Norway, Sweden, Poland, Slovakia, Romania, and these are very reliable partners, I would say. Other countries, as France, Germany, Italy, also very important. They help us a lot, and they're helping, but I think they have different vision of situation. And in the European Union, what I feel when I come even here in the European Union, I see how the countries are split about Ukraine, especially Hungary, especially Austria. Now, unfortunately, Slovakia. Maybe there will be other countries. I don't know who will be. I call them conservative countries. You know. But inside the countries, there are a lot of people who support Ukraine. So there is a position of the political government, there is a position of the people, which always very different. And the politicians use the situation. 1 year ago, Poland did not block any export. They did not block any export in the border. They didn't say that, oh, you should change your export. But on the eve of the elections, they became to block it, you know. So some politicians used this topic in Poland, not in Ukraine, because in Ukraine we have very, very centralized now political system. We don't have classical opposition. We are all support president, and the president is against Russia. So it's easy, very easy political system. But some politicians in Poland use the topic, and in Slovakia also, in Hungary. I think there will appear new challenges for Ukraine, not only in these countries. Maybe in Holland, maybe in Germany, maybe in France, I don't know. But I see the situation is different. But Ukraine and Zelensky will rely on our most reliable partners. This is the most important thing for us, who will keep on supporting. And Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, Great Britain, United States. Even the United States, despite their problem with this guy, But I think the Republicans will support Ukraine. I think. So that's why I think that we should rely on our reliable partners and not to take account what other countries will do. I mean, who doesn't want to support us? Because the main problem of Poland, of Slovakia, it's not that they are pro-Russian. They're not pro-Russian. The problem that there is a huge consequences of the war, economical consequences on the war for these countries, and they calculate, and they see, and Russia uses this. The Russians use this. This is another topic. Maybe sometime I will give you in the future the interview about Russia, information, so-called journalism, but it's another topic. But they used it very, very professionally, and they wait now. Russians just wait. You know? They're waiting what will be in the United States, in Europe, in Ukraine. They just wait. This is their tactics, and I think the Zelensky will be for the nearest future the symbol of the Ukraine, and he will collect support from pro-Ukrainian real partners. That's my answer. Thank you for political question. Who else ask? Do you have any questions? Yeah. ask, yeah. Oh. But I will answer in English. She asked me about whether the journalist should be born as a journalist or you can get all necessary skill during the life. I think that you can be the journalist during your social activity, your professional career, and you can become a journalist if you really want to be. But there are some skills like personal communications, or not to frighten the audience, or ability to come to the people and to speak with them in every moment, in every place. I think this is a natural gift, because I know a lot of people who wanted to be journalists, and I had a lot of friends, a lot of advisors who I tried to learn how to be flexible, to communicate with the people, to start talking in every situation, but they all failed. I mean, we don't have ability to come to the people and just to start talking, to ask the questions. If you cannot do it, if you don't have such kind of natural gift, you will not learn. I think these things are very, very specific, and you have to be an ability to learn. I don't believe that you have to ability to the languages. I don't believe. I don't have any specific ability to study foreign language. I just wanted to study, and I was learn all the texts by memory. So to study foreign languages, you need only hard working, not to have special brain or memory. You just to be very, very stubborn to study texts and languages. But concerning the personal communication, yes. If you want to be a journalist who can speak, look at the American journalists, yeah? They are very, very like Trump, you know. They can ask Trump, they can communicate. I think this is a specific type of human being. And I think these things should be from your birth, I think. But this is my personal point of view. Yeah, we will we will be in contact. You can follow me in Facebook, in others social networks. If you will have any kind of questions, you can ask directly in social network, or you can use special access to me, Rosita, and we can. You have some ideas, you can ask in the future, and I can share your experience. I hope this is not my last lecture. I really want to keep on, because I think in the next year I will be a researcher in Klaipeda University. I really like Klaipeda as a city. I really like Lithuania. You are our friends, our allies, and we don't have. I mean, we Ukrainians, we don't have any problems in Lithuania. We are very integrated historically in the Lithuanian society. That's why I invite you to come to Ukraine. don't be very frightened and to be some doubts about visiting Ukraine because of the war. We have millions of people who are quite safe, and you see how many journalists, foreign journalists and experts came to Ukraine. They didn't try to come to Ukraine. That's why don't be afraid to come to Ukraine. I think you should visit Ukraine, and you will see the country how it is, how Ukrainians love Lithuanians and grateful to your help. That's why I'm waiting for you in Ukraine. I will accompany you to front line.
If no question, I think we will end this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.